Are you a farmer or butcher ready to master direct-to-consumer marketing and meat success? Then you're in the right place. I'm Jared Hawken, the founder of ChopLocal. Each episode of this podcast features interviews with farmers and butchers who have built successful direct-to-consumer meat businesses, and they're going to share their secrets for success with you. From actionable tips to inspiring stories, this podcast has ingredients you will need to succeed in the meat business. After the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social. And check out the rest of our educational resources at ChopLocalUniversity.com. Now, let's turn it over to my business partner, Katie, to get started.
Before we get into this next episode, I wanted to let you know about one of our other resources that we offer. If you are in a hurry to see meat marketing results fast, then the Meat Commerce Essentials course is perfect for you. It covers everything that you need to know to sell meat online successfully, and it's presented in short video snippets to get you the info that you need to put into action as quickly as possible. For a limited time, we're offering our podcast listeners $100 off the course using coupon code POD100. That's POD100. Just visit ChopLocalUniversity.com to find the course and be sure to enter POD100 at checkout. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Meat Success Podcast. I'm Katie Altoff, the co-founder of ChopLocal and ChopLocal University. And I'm really excited for this episode because one of the things that I haven't talked a lot about in the podcast or in social media or in my emails is that Sierra and I do some done-for-you marketing for a few clients who are selling on Shopify and really need help. Most of the time they need help with their Google and Facebook ads, but we also help with email marketing as well. And so today I have one of those clients with me. We've been working together for about 2 months now, which I consider to be kind of still early in our relationship of working together. But it's been really fun and satisfying for me, and I think that you all will love getting to know Jeff and his personality, and that's one of the things that I really want to drive home during this podcast is how important authenticity is. Sierra and I talked about last week, and Jeff is the perfect example. So, welcome Jeff Charlton. He goes by Chief Beef Slinger at 3C Joppa Ranch. Thanks for joining me today, Jeff.
Katie, thank you very much. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do here at 3C Joppa Cattle Company and a little bit of history of the ranch, and really enjoyed working with you in this, past couple of months. Didn't really know who you were, right? Did a little research on the web, and I'm glad that we were able to join forces.
Yeah, me too. I know I've told you this and other people too, but Jeff always ends our meeting with, "Thank you so much, Katie. You're helping me out so much. He's such a great cheerleader, and it always makes me feel very validated," which honestly, I think we all want to have that sense of, doing good work in our work. And Jeff is one of the things that helps me feel that way. So thank you, Jeff. All right. Yes, exactly. Right. Words of affirmation. Okay. So, Jeff, start out, just tell us your history, how you got into the beef business, and more specifically, how you got into the direct-to-consumer beef business.
You bet, Katie. So I actually married into this opportunity. My wife, Alice Price, and her family have owned this ranch for over 100 years, and I married Alice 15 years ago. Had never really been in the cattle business before. My dad was a small-time vet, and we would go take care of, cattle as a small kid, right? So I knew a little bit about it, but certainly nothing to the point where I knew everything that a person needs to know to raise healthy animals and the pricing and all of these things that goes into being a rancher and the things that you can't plan for, like the drought. So I would say 5 years into our marriage, I'm watching my father-in-law take care of probably 400 head of cattle. And to me, it did not look like he was working that hard.
Seemed easy from the outside. Isn't that how it usually seems?
Yeah, because he'd worked the ranch for 60 years and had his little system down. I'm at the time in corporate America working for IBM or Oracle or Accenture. That's what I've done for 30 years. I've been in sales, selling IT systems. Very stressful job. It paid well and actually afforded me to put money into the infrastructure of this ranch so that when I retired from corporate America, which I did about a year ago, I have upgraded fencing, gates, infrastructure, barn, built the whole new cattle working system. So the plan was to just operate the cattle business once I retired out of corporate IT. But the way I got started, Katie, to answer your question, is after 5 years of me watching my father-in-law and hanging around watching what he does, inquiring, he said, "So do you want to get in the cattle business?" I said, "Yes." He gave me 40 cows, very old cows. I sold half of them probably the week after he gave them to me. And that's how I started.
So how long ago was that, Jeff? When you say you'd been married for 5 years and
Yeah, that was 10 years ago. We've been married for 15 years. And I'd say 5 years in is when he basically said, you want to get in the cattle business, here's 40 cows, but you're going to have to go you're going to have to repair the fences in these 4 pastures, right? So I spent quite a bit of money. That's one thing. I had no idea how expensive it was to build fences. That's another learning experience. So fast forward from there, I did exactly what this family's done for 100 years, in the cattle business. You leave a bull in year round, and when you need a little bit of money, you go round up the calves, you put them on the trailer, and you take them to the auction barn. That's what they did, and that's all I knew to do. Being the curious person that I am, I began looking at other models of ranching and got into the purebred Angus bull business. That was our first foray of, changing the model, which I met with a lot of resistance with my father-in-law. It was always, "No, that's not going to work. Why are you doing that, Jeff?"
I think a lot of people listening could probably relate when there is a family, and I married into a farm family too, so I get it. When there is a way that it's been done and it's worked okay for a long time, why would you want to change it? But you're kind of like me, constantly learning, wanting to try new things and do it better and better and better, right? And so this was one of the iterations.
Especially when, I knew at some point that my income was going to be based solely on the cattle operation. I wanted to optimize it. I wanted to apply the things I learned in business to the cattle business. And there was a lot of areas that I saw that we could change that would optimize my ROI. I mean, very simple things, just like working your cattle every year, ear tagging, vaccinating, branding. They never did that, right? They used to many years ago, but my father-in-law at the time was, 75, and, he just didn't do it anymore. So fast forward from being in the registered Angus bull business to then learning and reading about these younger generation kids that literally transformed ranches, and some of them saving the ranch from foreclosure by changing the model to direct to consumer. And they met a lot of resistance, and so I joined a couple of Facebook groups and some other organizations that basically taught ranchers how to transition from a traditional ranching operation into direct to consumer. And that's where I started building my technology platform and integrating my Shopify with my Facebook and all of these other applications. And my background in the IT business helped me do that. And fast forward to today, we now have 2 lines of business. One is direct to consumer, where we produce about 100 calves, American Wagyu. So we transitioned from Angus to American Wagyu, primarily because the high demand for that premium product. So we sell those direct to consumer, and about half the herd we sell, it's just a cow-calf operation where we sell our calves directly to JBS Foods, one of the big 4. and I'm in a program with them, has a specific protocol that I follow. And so that's really where we are today. About half of what we produce I sell to JBS, and the other half of what we produce we sell direct to consumer. The direct to consumer is much more labor intensive, way more labor intensive, in fact. I didn't know anything about this, Katie. I mean, this is, I didn't have a Facebook account until 2 years ago.
It made me think when you said earlier that you watched your father-in-law, it didn't seem like he was working very hard. And I said, it always seems simpler from the outside. I think the direct-to-consumer business is the same thing, right? Like, you looked at other places selling online and you thought, I can do that, right? And I've run into that a lot in my conversations the last 5 years, especially the people, you didn't start during the COVID boom like a lot of people did, but if they started during the COVID boom, it was easier then. And then it got hard and they all went, what do I do now? It's not working. And about the time that it got a lot harder for those COVID boomers is about when you started. So there you go.
Yeah, that's so true.
So do you finish the calves that you sell to JBS? Are they finished cattle when you sell them? Or do they go into a feeding program through JBS then?
They go into a feeding program. I sell them around 500 pounds. So between 6 and 9 months old. Sure like the cattle prices these days too, by the way. I don't know how long this is going to continue.
But then you're finishing the cattle that you're selling direct to consumer. You're finishing those on grain. I assume you have a small feedlot set up there on the ranch to finish those out.
So much of this has been fake it till you make it, right? Trying things that you don't know anything about, that has certainly not been what the lineage of the family has done. And you're kind of going against the grain. And even my wife is like, why are you doing this? Now she's like, I'm glad you're doing this. It's working.
But she needed to see the proof for a while. And like you said, you had to try it out, right?
Her brother and her dad are like, why is Jeff doing that? It's not what we've done for. So much of this has been every day a new experience, right? And I just learned by watching other people, asking a lot of questions. And that's pretty much what's gotten me to where I am now. And have I made a lot of mistakes? I have, expensive mistakes. But that's part of the excitement too, is, I wake up every morning with a new challenge of something I've never done before, creating videos. I've videoed myself in sales presentations, and that may have helped a little bit, but, I've never thought I would be videoing myself with my cattle trying to sell beef online. But it's been an experience.
That's the perfect segue, because one of the big things that I have really loved about what you do is you are so incredibly authentic online, and you do what I call selfie videos all the time. If you guys follow 3C Joppa on Facebook or Instagram, and I've never done this before in a podcast, but if you're watching on YouTube, I am going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see some of these videos. You see an example right here of Jeff doing a selfie video out in front of his cattle. Here's another one. And he also, this is not Jeff, this is a buddy, and we're going to talk about him also. But Jeff also does selfie videos with his meat. Here he is with some liver. He does them in his kitchen. Here's a video where he's showing packing up. I don't know if this was a quarter or an eighth, but packing up some bulk beef. So, like I said, these selfie videos that you do, I just really love them, and I love the authenticity. And Sierra and I recorded a podcast last week, and we talked about how with AI being everywhere in marketing right now, authenticity and showing behind the scenes is so important. But what's really unique about you, and one of your strengths, I think, is that you've figured out a way to balance using AI to help you in your marketing while still being super authentic like this, while still showing your face, your beef, your ranch, your cattle. So one of the things I want to talk about with you is how are you using AI in your marketing? What tools are you using, and how did you get to the point that you felt like those tools were giving you the right type of information that you needed?
One thing I realized many years ago, Katie, is I don't have a creative bone in my body. And so without I would not be where I am today because it gets me started. I can't even move beyond a blank sheet of paper. I have to have either I copy what somebody is doing successfully and then optimize that. I have to have a kickstart somewhere somehow to get the idea flowing. I just don't have that type of a creative mind. So I think there's a lot of luck that is involved in the little success that we've had, and that is without AI, I wouldn't be where I am now. I also think that in today's world, there's a few things that have helped us get to where we are, and those are things like I think just the whole Western lifestyle is in vogue a little bit. I think people think that it's something of the past, and they are just very curious about it. You look at the programs like Yellowstone and 1883, and it just seems to be a popular thing now. I also think that there's an increased awareness, if you will, of the crappy food system we have in this country. I've never, until a couple of years ago, looked at labels, read labels, right? And I think in general, our community, our country is more in tune to that. So between those three things, it's kind of created the perfect storm for the direct-to-consumer beef business. And you couple that with my background being in the IT business and in sales, right? I've been in sales for 30 some odd years. That has helped me immensely. But in terms of creating content, I really just, like I said, faked it until I made it. And I wouldn't say I've made it, but I'm seeing what my audience likes and then trying to recreate that type of experience for them. And one of the things that I tell our kids is, we have to tell the story first and then sell second. If everything you do is all about selling, you won't be really getting as many likes, or you won't grow your audience, because people want to be informed. People want to be educated. And once you educate them and inform them and create some credibility with yourself, that's when people are going to come to you and perhaps buy whatever it is that you're advocating, whether it's beef or widgets or whatever you're selling.
I think, the phrase know, like, and trust came to my mind as when you were talking about that. When you are showing off those videos of you on the farm and people can get to know your enthusiastic personality, they're getting to know you, they're liking you because, like you said, you are fitting into some of these trends and authentically fitting into these trends of kind of, like you said, the Western lifestyle, paying attention to the food that you eat, those types of things. And then they're trusting you because they feel like they know you. If you watch a few of these videos, you will feel like you know Jeff. And that really comes across in your social media. So then you pair those videos. Well, first let me ask a question. When you're recording these videos, are you using a microphone or anything like that? Or are you just holding your phone out? Do you use like a selfie stick? Do you use a tripod? What's the technology look like for most of this?
I'm kind of embarrassed to even tell you this because it is so low tech. It's so low tech, Katie, that I went out and bought one of these. What are they called? Where you have the handle and the phone is on it.
I have my ring light that I forgot to turn on, kind of like this, right? So
no, it's a gimbal, right? Where it takes the shake out of the camera, and I use that when I'm out in the pasture. I'd say 50% of the time, but 50% of the time I just grab my phone and start filming. and I have an offshore creative video editor that can make crappy videos look pretty good. The editing capability these days is amazing. And, what I did learn is when you're making a video, you just keep that camera rolling. And let's just say have 3 or 4 things that you want to get across. You can say that first line 6 or 7 times, like, 20% off on bulk beef, 20% off on bulk beef, 20% off on bulk beef. You say it 3 or 4 times each line, and then they stitch it together, right? You don't have to say the whole thing perfectly, which I was doing at first, and it would take me forever to make a video because I thought I have to make the whole thing perfect from the beginning to the end, right? I've yet to learn how to use the microphone. When I bought the little microphone that you put on your, I've yet to figure out how that darn thing works, which I'm embarrassed to say. So I'm very low tech.
I think that that's okay. I mean, we want people listening to feel like they can do what's been working for you, right? And so the lower tech, the better. So you film these videos all the time. You send them off to your editor, who is in the Philippines, I believe. He does a great job. I've gotten to work with him a little bit too. And then you use AI to write the captions most of the time for your social media posts.
All the time, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think based on working with you, you use AI to help you come up with ideas for videos and content and things like that too, right?
Correct. And I've gotten so reliant on, I use ChatGPT. I've just, focused in on learning one LLM. And Katie, I think I know more about AI than our children, right? Just because I use it every day, not only for creating content, but also from an operational perspective and from helping me price things and understanding what my margin is. So, I have my chief financial officer project and I have my operational officer project built into ChatGPT and my content project. And as you know, I call it my little friend, begins to really understand who you are, what you're doing, what works, what doesn't work. And it remembers these things way better than we remember things.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, do you use the paid version of ChatGPT or the free one?
The $20 a month. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, when you have that $20 version, for everybody listening that doesn't know, you can create what's called projects, and ChatGPT will remember what you've put in there in the past. And so I actually use ChatGPT also. I have different projects for each of my different clients and different projects that I'm working on. That way we don't get information about 3C Joppa mixed up with one of my other clients, because ChatGPT does have a memory and it does, use that to then, when you ask it a question like, what should I do for, what should I focus on for my email newsletter this week? It will take that historical information that you've already fed it and put it in there. And so we use the projects to kind of keep it separate. But that's one thing that I think people don't understand when they first start using ChatGPT. It doesn't have that history that's specific to you. But the more that you use it and the more that you prompt it and the more that you tell it, I don't like those types of words, I don't like those types of sentences, these are the types that I like, then it gets better and better at really. It's just like training an employee. It's a very efficient employee who is there at the snap of a fingers. It will do what you need.
The thing that I have really, just from a marketing perspective, I've created a custom marketing GPT, which is much like a project, but the custom GPT really knows you much better than a project, and it's a little bit broader than. I use my projects for very specific things, finance, pricing, but my marketing custom GPT, it pretty much, I feed it everything that I put out on social, right? And if there is a piece of content that has done really, really well, I'll put it into this custom GPT and say, repurpose this for a different type of video and give me the script for a 15-second promotional video. And I hit enter, and it gives me the script. I pick my phone up, I go outside in front of the cattle, and I say the 4 lines, right? And come back in, ship it off to my guy in the Philippines. He pretties it up, and we post it. It's, we have a calendar full of content for really like the next every 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, we've already got everything scheduled in from a content perspective.
Yeah, I love it. So efficient. Efficiency is one of my core values, honestly. And so I love the way that you are using this. Now, there are some things that you do not use it for. I have never seen you use it for image generation or a graphic using, a chat GPT created photo of meat. These are all real photos of your meat that you've taken, and that was one of the first things you and I talked about, was how to take better photos of your meat, and you've done a great job. But is there anything else that you won't use chat GPT for right now?
Well, just in the whole production process of the cattle business, right? I mean, it helps me understand what the latest vaccines are, and when I have an injured animal, how to care for it. But I don't use AI really in the whole production process of my cattle operation, which I'm a one-man show, or pretty much, right? And I'm taking care of 150 head of cattle, doing the whole social media thing. And so optimizing, like what you said, is key, because our most valuable asset is time, right? So I would say what I don't use it for is, like you said, specific to content, is creating images. I just don't, at least ChatGPT is not there yet. I don't really like the way the images of the meat look like. I like the real images of the meat, so I won't use it for that. But anything else, ChatGPT is involved in some way.
It'll be interesting to talk again a year from now and see what else has developed, and there's some other AI tools that you're starting to work with, and so we can talk about those too. Before we wrap up though, I want to talk about your sales experience and the partnerships that you have developed with your beef business here. You've worked with some influencers, some other business owners, some people in the carnivore diet space, I believe, right? Tell us a little bit about how those got started and there's a lot of people selling beef direct to consumer. So how do you get yourself to stand out with those types of influencers? Dr. Kiltz is kind of a big name, I think, and in the carnivore diet space, is that right?
He's very well known, super individual, very selfless. He wants to help, right? And why he teamed up with a little old cattle producer in Texas, I don't know. And I asked him that. He said, well, when I met you at a conference, I just liked you. And so that's where that started, right? Being at the right place at the right time. But early on, Katie, when I was learning about the direct-to-consumer beef business, I was taught that there's really 2 ways to grow this type of a business, and one is through organic content. It takes a little longer to grow just organically. The other way is through promotional partnerships. And the promotional partnership model is very natural to me because of my prior business career in sales. Way more comfortable than creating content. I've never done that. What do you do, right? But going out and talking to other business owners and creating a promotional partnership has been easier on me. And I was taught early on that you can really create a decent revenue source if you get your email list, a good quality email list, up into several thousand, engaged subscribers. And that's really what the promotional partnerships are all about, is I go donate beef. I mean, I've done it with law firms. I've done it with my eye doctor. I've done it with venture capital group. I've done it with influencers. I've done it with honey companies. And the key to that is the promotional partner really needs to have a similar customer avatar or customer profile, like beef, people who like to eat beef, right? Busy professionals that value health, they value convenience, they value quality. And it's easy for them because it doesn't cost them anything, and I donate the beef. They then give it to their audience or their customers or their patients, and then we do a drawing, right? And I get the email addresses from those who opt in. That's how I've gotten my email list up to about 5,000 people, which I really need to figure out how to monetize that now.
That's the step that we're on, right? We literally, before we got on, Jeff and I met yesterday and talked through some email strategy. And then before we hit record this morning, we were discussing more email strategy. What was kind of funny is that I said, I think maybe we should do this. It was about segmenting your list, right? And you said, that's exactly what ChatGPT told me that we should do. And I was like, well, great. I guess for those of you who aren't comfortable with ChatGPT, I'm almost as smart as it is, but I rely on it sometimes too. But yeah, monetizing your email list is kind of next step. We've also, the last 6 to 8 weeks, we launched Google Ads for you, which have been making a difference so far. And we also launched Meta Ads, so Facebook and well, I guess you were doing lead generation Meta Ads. We're doing more sales conversions Meta Ads now and kind of revamping that. And one of the pieces of data or results that I showed Jeff at the end of December was that before I came on and helped, almost all of the sales in his Shopify channel required him to get on the phone with people and do direct sales, right? Which that's your strength, because that's what you've done in the past, is you are a salesman. Like we said, when people get to know you, they like you and they trust you. And so that works really well. But our goal is to start transitioning where you don't have to get on the phone. How can we use your website and ads and email to the point that we can have more of these truly passive income orders come in, where you don't have to call people and talk to them to get them to place an order. They just come to the website and do it. So, like you said, monetizing the email list, that's part of the priority there.
And Katie, one of the real values, and since joining forces with you, is you bring these KPIs to me and force me to look at them, which I'm not a real detailed person, but I know KPIs are really important, right? So intellectually, I know I need to be looking at them and using that data to make decisions, but I'm running so hard and doing a crappy job at too many things that just kind of gets pushed aside, like, I'll look at that tomorrow. And so this morning, actually, I was just looking at the numbers over the last couple of months, and literally every KPI, from engagement on social to the meta ads to the viewers of my Google business page, they're all up in a pretty vertical up perspective. So I want to continue doing that, and I just appreciate you bringing all of these things up that I would not have taken the time to look at. So thank you for doing that.
You started with a great foundation, and this is where I love to be able to come in and just enhance it with my skill set. And like I said, when we looked at those, the marketing attribution report in Shopify is one of my favorites. And when we looked at it before I came in, it was almost all direct orders, meaning that Jeff had to get on the phone with them and enter that order himself. And then we've seen, especially the second month that we worked together in December, we started to see, oh, it was not all direct orders. There were orders from Meta ads, there were orders from Google ads, there were orders from Google organic. It's starting to diversify where those orders are coming from, get more channels in there, and that's going to help you grow the business. And so I love to look at the KPIs. I will also say sometimes I have ChatGPT look at my numbers to help me out with things too. But I don't think there's any replacement for us getting in there and looking at them and really analyzing ourselves. What's working, like you said, what's not, where do we go from there? So
It's a matter of trusting those numbers too, Katie, which the older I get, the more cynical I get about everything, right? I believe very little of what people say anymore, right? I want to see I want to see the actual result. And so it's taken a while to, for me to really believe these numbers, because really for the last, say I've been doing Meta ads now for maybe a year and a half. Either the pixel's firing wrong or the conversion API is firing wrong, because it's showing thousands of dollars of sales. And unless it's in my Shopify, it didn't happen. All right. So I'm not there yet on trusting all of this data. Just like yesterday, you said we looked at the attribution, and I think there was 3 sales off of email, and then we went into my drip and we started looking at the data there, and it didn't actually match up, right? So we've got a lot of, I think, opportunity to further optimize things.
you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that I think can be really confusing for people getting started is how is this data measured? Where is it coming from? Why is Shopify reporting one thing and Meta is reporting something completely different, right? And that's where really starting to sort through and understanding. We've looked at Google Analytics together. We're looking at Shopify data. We're looking at Meta's data. We're looking at Google Ads data and trying to reconcile it all to figure out what's working the best. So there are a lot of things I think that farmers, ranchers, and butcher shops can do on their own for marketing. And that's what a lot of our focus has been through ChopLocal University is here's what you can do. You can create these videos yourself. You can use ChatGPT to give you some ideas. You can take beautiful pictures of your beef. You're an example of that. But there are some things that get really complicated, and I feel like ads management is one of those, and that's where I feel like we can really help. Because we've seen not only what we've done through ChopLocal and ads management, but now working with clients like you, I've seen a lot of different examples that help guide what I do.
Sharing those customer experiences that you have, across multiple direct-to-consumer beef providers. And one of the things I really love about ChopLocal and you guys, you give a lot of stuff away, right? And you don't charge for it. And there was a wise man who told me, give it away, Jeff. Give it away and people will come, right?
And you've done that with the beef business. You're doing the giveaways with the partnerships, right? So
Yeah. Oh, golly, how do we measure the ROI on all that,
sometimes that ROI is like right here. It's in your heart, right? That sounds super cheesy, but it is. It is very fulfilling. So, all right, before we wrap up, if you could give one piece of advice to farmers and ranchers who are selling direct to consumer, something that took you, blood, sweat, and tears to learn, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. I'll say the most painful thing I've been through in this business is the whole shipping process. And long story short, for the first year, I'm shipping express everything, 2-day air, very expensive, right? Had to get hazmat certified in order to put dry ice in. And now, after going through a lot of pain, I rarely ever ship express. I pretty much ship ground only to a specific set of states that I can maintain my margin on. That was a very costly experience.
You seen our shipping training? I can't remember.
No, I didn't do your shipping course.
Well, I probably need to give that away to you at this point, so I'll send you that and see if you can get any tips on that. Because, yeah, Our shipping course, dry ice is really hard for people in rural areas to find. It's hard to deal with, as you saw with the hazmat. We have a little bit of a different method that doesn't use dry ice, and we go through it. We have a short course that shows everybody how to do it. So I'll get that to you, Jeff. And anybody listening that wants that, you can find it at ChopLocalUniversity.com. So
I wished I would have found that 6 months ago, because it's cost me thousands of dollars in mistakes where I'd ship a whole beef, Katie, FedEx would pick it up. That afternoon, all 12 boxes show back up on my shipping deck because I don't have the labeling right, or I don't, So that's been expensive. I'd say the other 4 recommendations is, at first I was very concerned about what my friends and family would think about how I looked on social media, right? And I quickly realized that it doesn't matter what they think, because they're a small fraction of the people that are going to be seeing you online. So don't let that impede your picking up the phone and telling your story and telling it authentically and telling it often, all right? So I say feel the fear, but do it anyway.
last week on our Chop Local University Instagram, I took an awkward selfie and put some tips on it, some text on it, and I said, this is the year of the awkward selfie. We need authenticity. We need to have your face on there because there's so much. And like I said, I'm not against AI overall, but there's so many AI images and things like that out there that people want to see real people. So
I'll say the last thing, Katie, would be don't try to do it all yourself, especially if you've never done it before, all right? Find someone who's done it before that can bring some experiences to you, even if you have to pay for that, all right? I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars I've thrown away on meta ads. I mean, I looked at what I was doing a year and a half ago. It was so silly. It's just like gambling, right? Oh, maybe this will work, So find somebody who's been down that path before and get them to help you with it, even if you have to pay for it. Even if it's a revenue share thing, if you don't have the money to pay them out of pocket, maybe engage with them on a revenue share model. There's professionals that will do that out there.
yeah, that's good advice. I understand because I am stubborn also and I like to learn. So I wanted to learn how to do it myself, but we did pay some professionals along the way at Chop Local, and I will tell you that I learned leaps and bounds by working with those professionals that led me to the point of being able to do it myself. And just like you said in our first meeting, Jeff, when you said you were going to hire me, you said, my goal is that I learn enough that I don't need you forever. And I said, okay, because that would be my goal too. Your success, we want you to be successful. And that's the part that I find most fulfilling about this. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. You and I will get to reconvene again about your email, and we're going to meet again next week to talk about the next strategies. But I really appreciate you hopping on and chatting a little bit with all of our listeners and viewers here.
Good stuff, Katie. Thank you so much for everything you've done, and really do appreciate the opportunity to kind of tell my story here with you on Chop Local.
You guys, this is how he ends every meeting. Thank you so much for everything you've done, Katie. Love it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Meat Success. We hope this episode gave you fresh insights and inspiration to beef up your meat marketing. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and share with your fellow farmers and butchers. Have questions or ideas for future podcasts? Reach out to ChopLocalUniversity.com. Until next time, remember, there's more than one recipe for meat success.